Okay, time to review this monster here, the Lowlander made by Hanwei. I made a first impressions video about this a while ago, which was initially positive, but there's a reason why I normally wait with the final review until after I've tested it some more. So I was a little worried about whether the structural integrity would hold up to its own heft. And, yeah, not necessarily. So I did some test cutting, or attempted cutting, on some tatami mats, and afterwards it has started rattling quite a bit. Yeah, that's not very good. The guard is, when you're just holding it, it still seems solid, but there's a lot of wobble. Right? As soon as there's any kind of impact on the blade, I'm really worried about this. It does not sound good. It may be that eventually it'll work itself loose, or it might break. Oh, I don't like that. That loosened up a bit too quickly for my taste. So you may wonder, what is with the size anyway? Did anybody in history use such massive swords? And yes, people did. It wasn't very common, but German mercenaries had massive two-handed greatswords that were the size of the wielder, or sometimes even longer. And I have actually found a lowland Scottish two-handed greatsword, which is pretty similar to this. It is actually a bit shorter. It is 33 centimeters or 13 inches shorter, and it's also lighter, about a kilogram or 2.5 pounds lighter than this reproduction. This one here weighs 3.38 kilos or 7.5 pounds, which for the size is not too bad, really. And the balance is not bad either. You can see it's relatively close to the guard for, considering the entire length. If you look at the vibration here near the pommel, there is quite a bit of movement, which may eventually cause enough stress on the threaded tang to break. And that's another issue with this, the fact that it's threaded. You know, on the one hand, I'm happy that it is, because it makes it easier to transport. You can just disassemble it and rotate the guard, so it's still long but not as wide. So that makes it a bit easier. It also makes it easier for shipping, of course. But I'm a little worried that the thread just might not support it long term. The grip is a wood core covered in leather. What kind of wood? I don't know. I wasn't able to find out. Same with the blade. They only tell you it's carbon steel, which really doesn't tell you that much. I mean, yes, it tells you it's not stainless, so you can actually use it. But what kind? What tempering? We don't know. As far as the edge is concerned, Cult of Athena calls this moderately sharp, and I would agree. It's not all that sharp, but the good news is the edge grind is pretty good. There's no secondary bevel, and it's evenly ground from the center of the blade out to the edge, so that's nice. As far as the flexibility is concerned, I'm not sure exactly how flexible the originals were. This doesn't seem too bad. My first impression was that it was overly flexible, but I'm not so sure anymore. It does need a certain flexibility to not shatter on impact, of course, so it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does make cutting a bit more difficult, because not only do you have to deal with this very long blade and long grip, so that makes edge alignment a bit more difficult, but also upon impact it's quite likely to vibrate and flex. So it's very challenging to cut with, at least I found it to be. If you're cutting things like water bottles or especially larger milk jugs and stuff like that, then yeah, that's not difficult. But when it comes to tatami mats, this really didn't work out too well. To be fair, I used a double roll with 2 tatami mats because I figured this massive sword needs a bit more weight in the target. It's really not that good for cutting light targets, and I wasn't able to cut all the way through the mat. I'm sure that is partially due to my lack of training with this, but with a different kind of sword, I was able to cut through it just fine. So yes, it is certainly difficult. I like that the guard is properly shaped. It's nice and thin. It's not overly bulky as you see on some cheaper fantasy swords. And it does help reduce the weight. So yeah, I can't complain about that. Also, the fit is pretty good. There's not much of a gap between the blade and the guard. So that's all very well done, no problem. The grip itself is quite nice. It's well shaped. Should fit both smaller and relatively large hands reasonably well. It's all well put together. It's not coming apart or anything. You have plenty of, well, it looks like nails, I'm guessing. So this really should hold up quite well. Feels good in the hand. And yeah, no issues here. It's definitely a nice sword. It looks good. The finish is more than acceptable. It's really just that I'm worried about structural integrity. If you were to keep using this on relatively hard targets for a while, then I don't think this would have a very long lifespan, quite frankly. To be fair, it is technically still solid. There is no rattle as you're handling it. Really, my main issue is the way it sounds when it vibrates. I'm not sure if the tang is rattling inside the grip. It kind of sounds like it. So even if the tang holds up, eventually the grip might simply break. So I realize it's a lot of speculation, a lot of mights, but I'm not really confident enough in it to be willing to test it a lot more. With a sword of this size and mass, with a powerful swing, if something breaks, then, well, terrible things could happen. So I would say if you're looking for a sword that looks really good as an imposing piece, would be awesome on the wall, but it's still better made than just a stainless steel wall hanger, then yeah, this definitely fits the bill. If you don't intend to be using it hard, I mean, if you just want to cut, water jugs and stuff, then yeah, go ahead, no problem. I don't see any issue with that. And again, it sure looks nice, and especially you have to give it to this thing at that price. It is difficult to beat. Well, it's difficult to beat anyway because this is the only one I've ever seen of that type on the market. But below $300, that is a pretty damn good price for what you're getting. So considering that, I really can't complain too much. It's just that I'm someone who likes swords to be very tough and durable and strong. And I do like to use them hard. And for that, this is not really the right thing. However, if you like pumpkin cutting, that works very well. So I hope you found the review helpful, and thanks for watching. Free!